It's 2 a.m., and the only light in the room is the glow of a laptop screen. Dozens of tabs are open old news articles, public records, and social media profiles scrolled back for years. The person staring at the screen started this whole thing with a real sense of purpose, a passion for solving a case the system seemed to have forgotten. They called themselves a web sleuth, a seeker of truth. But somewhere over the last few weeks, the mission changed. The original case files are gathering digital dust. Now, all their energy is focused on one person, a professional who was once featured on the news, offering an expert opinion that contradicted their favorite theory. The search for clues has been replaced by a hunt for flaws. Every old photo, every offhand comment this expert ever made online is now Exhibit A in a sprawling, multi-part expose. They're not just disagreeing with the expert's opinion anymore. They're dissecting their character, their credentials, their entire life, framing it all as evidence of a grand deception. They tell their followers this is holding them accountable. But when you watch them work, you see this isn't about justice. It's about domination.
That transformation from a passionate amateur into someone obsessed with destroying a person who has the success they crave isn't just a strange hobby. It's a forensically predictable pattern. Okay, so let's unpack this. Today, we're really digging into this fascinating and frankly often disturbing transformation that happens online. How these, passionate amateur investigators can sometimes morph into what we're calling hater creators.
Right. It's a term that really captures that shift, doesn't it? From trying to build something like solve a case to just tearing someone down.
Exactly. So we'll explore the hidden psychological forces at play here, the ethical responsibilities of the digital platforms that kind of amplify these behaviors.
Which is a huge piece of the puzzle.
Huge. And also the crucial legal and ethical distinctions between these amateur efforts and, professional crime solving.
Yeah, the lines get really blurry, and that's where a lot of the danger lies.
It's really a journey into understanding how civil discourse degrades, how misinformation spreads, and I guess how even well-intentioned efforts can just go wrong and cause unintended harm.
It's a crucial topic, truly, and it affects far more people than you might initially realize. I mean, so much of our lives are moving online now, crime solving, public debate, everything. And as those lines blur, the consequences, like we'll get into, they can be really profound. For individuals, sure, but also for society as a whole.
That's a powerful point. Sets the stage perfectly. So let's start by looking at the core of this, right? Part 1, the forensic psychology of hater creators and the digital mob.
Okay.
We've all seen them, this growing breed of digital antagonists. They don't just disagree, they fixate. They smear reputations, actively try to destroy people.
Yeah, it's systematic. They engineer campaigns, publish these online hit pieces.
Right, hit pieces. And they weaponize shame, always under the banner of truth or justice.
Always. That's the cover.
It's just incredibly aggressive.
But what's really disturbing and kind of fascinating from a psychological standpoint is that behind all that self-righteousness, there's actually a surprisingly predictable pattern.
Predictable.
Yeah. Forensic psychology has shed a lot of light on why these individuals behave this way. It's not just random anger. It follows a clear, almost unsettling blueprint that we can actually identify.
Okay, so what is that blueprint? Because what I find really compelling is this idea that it's often not about deep personal conviction, right?
Exactly.
It seems like many of these people are acting out of obedience. Obedience to a belief, a movement, a narrative. It feels almost like deep programming.
That's a good way to put it. Their actions are dictated by some external script rather than an internal moral compass.
Yeah. I mean, you think about those Stanley Milgram obedience experiments back in '61.
The shock experiments.
Right. Ordinary people willing to deliver what they thought were lethal shocks just because an authority figure told them to.
And it wasn't because they were inherently malicious people. It was their response to perceived authority.
So how does that translate online? How does that outsourcing of conscience, as you called it, play out in specific behaviors we see today?
Well, online, it translates into, outsourcing your conscience to the groupthink, right? To a dominant ideology or just the echo chamber of whatever digital community you're in.
So you rely on the group for validation.
Heavily. It's not a complete surrender, maybe, but a heavy reliance on the group for that moral validation. People feel like they're just following a script, which, disturbingly, lets them disconnect from the ethical weight of their actions.
Oh.
They follow a perceived leader, maybe a trending case, or a belief system that basically hands them a kind of moral license.
Like permission to attack.
In a way, yes. And this helps explain why they often feel no guilt. They genuinely believe they're just obeying the script or, fulfilling some righteous mission, often fueled by the collective outrage of their online buddies.
It's like a moral diffusion.
Yeah.
Individual responsibility just evaporates into the crowd.
Precisely. Accountability gets lost.
This idea of outsourcing your conscience, it really makes me think about the individual stories. We get lost in the jargon sometimes, but you need the human element to really grasp it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so try to imagine this guy.
Yeah.
Let's call him Leo. He works a quiet data entry job, maybe somewhere in the Midwest. His life feels, I don't know, flat, monotonous.
Been there.
Right. But online, he finds a voice. Or maybe more accurately, he finds a cause. He stumbles onto some charismatic creator, someone building this huge narrative, a crusade against, say, some local environmental law.
Okay.
And this creator's really good at framing opponents, not just as people with different views, but as like malicious actors in a grand conspiracy.
Right. Raising the stakes immediately.
Totally. And for Leo, it's intoxicating. He feels purpose. He starts making his own little videos exposing the corruption of local council members just by re-editing their public statements, adding ominous music, dramatic cuts, simple stuff, but effective in that context.
Not driven by facts, but by the narrative he's bought into.
Exactly. And when his follower count starts ticking up, people comment, Leo, you're a hero. Keep speaking truth. It's this rush of power he's never felt.
He's not Leo the data clerk anymore.
No. He's a warrior for justice, a commander in a digital army, that gnawing feeling of being insignificant. It gets replaced by the righteous fury of the mob.
And in that echo chamber, his own maybe jealousy or anger feels like heroic conviction.
Yeah. It transforms his personal void into this public weapon.
Leo's story is, wow, it's both tragic and terrifying, isn't it? Because it shows how easily that basic human need for community and purpose can be twisted.
Yeah.
Hater creators, they prey on this. They offer a prepackaged identity, a clear enemy, to people feeling lost or powerless.
And the damage they do to civil discourse is huge because they aren't just arguing a point. They're trying to destroy the person making it. And they weaponize people like Leo to do it.
And what forensic psychology tells us is that often behind individuals like Leo or the creators he followed, you find specific personality traits, things that make this kind of digital destruction not just possible, but, like we said, predictable.
Okay, like what kind of traits?
Well, many of these hater creators exhibit what's known as the dark triad traits.
Dark triad. Sounds ominous.
It is. It includes psychopathy, which is often characterized by emotional detachment, narcissism, so ego inflation, grandiosity, and Machiavellianism, which is basically manipulation, strategic exploitation of others.
So are we talking about full-blown clinical disorders here?
Not necessarily, and that's what's chilling. Even subtle inclinations towards emotional detachment or ego inflation or being manipulative, when these get amplified by the digital world, by the anonymity and the reach.
They can transform ordinary people into destructive forces.
Exactly. It makes you realize how thin that veneer of civility can sometimes be online.
So what are their core motives then, if it's not always deep conviction?
Pretty straightforward, usually. They want to control the narrative. They want to shut down anyone who disagrees. And they want to feel powerful without any accountability.
And they use morality as a disguise.
Frequently. Framing their targets as dangerous or immoral justifies their own actions, right? All while they themselves are engaging in significant abuses of power. It's classic projection. Their own toxic behaviors get attributed to the target.
Forensic profiles also show another disturbing pattern, don't they? About past trauma.
Yes, that's a significant finding. Many of these aggressors were, at some point, victims themselves. But instead of processing or healing from that past trauma,
They flip the script.
they convert that past powerlessness into present aggression. Online, this can look like doxing, making false accusations, obsessively targeting individuals, rallying others into digital mobs.
And their justification is often, I'm not a bully, I'm exposing one.
That's the mantra, a very convenient rationalization for causing harm.
What's also fascinating is who they target. It's usually not complete strangers, is it?
More often than not, no. They tend to target people who possess qualities or successes that the hater creator secretly desires.
Like what? Success, confidence?
Yeah, success, confidence, visibility, sometimes even just peace or contentment. Things the hater creator feels they lack.
But admitting envy is shameful, especially for an egocentric personality.
Deeply shameful, so they mask it. They reframe it as a moral mission. That phrase, "I'm holding them accountable," becomes their self-serving battle cry. It's a shield for their own insecurity and envy.
So it sounds like there's often this deep void behind the hate.
That's what forensic psychology consistently finds. These hater creators often lack a strong sense of identity or clear direction or internal power.
So they borrow meaning by trying to destroy others.
Exactly. They're obedient to the narrative, but ultimately aimless. They might be intelligent, but it's severely misdirected. Passionate, maybe, but fundamentally hollow.
And that combination, obedient but aimless, intelligent but misdirected, passionate but hollow,
It becomes incredibly dangerous, especially when digital platforms inadvertently reward the outrage and don't prioritize truth.
which brings up a really important question. How does the internet environment itself contribute to this? You mentioned the online disinhibition effect earlier. Can you walk us through what that actually means?
Absolutely. The online disinhibition effect is basically where individuals feel fewer social restraints online compared to face-to-face interactions.
So they act out more.
Yeah, they become more aggressive, hostile, maybe inappropriate. This is where you get trolling, cyberbullying, anonymous hate speech. Often it's completely detached from how they act offline.
The surprising thing isn't that people act out, but maybe how easily their online persona can diverge from their offline self.
Right. It becomes a vessel for hostility they'd never express in person.
So what causes this effect? What are the digital conditions?
Well, several factors come together. First, there's dissociative anonymity. That's the belief that your online actions can't be linked back to your real identity.
So less responsibility.
Exactly. It feels like actions happen in a void. Second, there's invisibility. You're shielded from immediate judgment because there's no physical presence, no facial cues. Think about how much we communicate non-verbally that's all gone online.
Yeah, a raised eyebrow speaks volumes.
For sure. Third is asynchronicity. Online chats don't happen in real time, right? There's a delay.
So less immediate feedback.
Right. Which makes impulsive or hostile comments easier because there's no instant reaction, no social cue to make you pause or reconsider.
Okay.
And finally, there's the minimization of authority. Online, usernames often replace real-world status markers like job titles or age. Hierarchies get flattened.
Which can encourage more abrasive interactions, like everyone feels equal, so some feel entitled to attack.
Precisely. Suddenly, that perceived equality is used by some as license to be more aggressive.
So you combine these anonymity, invisibility, delay, flattened hierarchies, and you get reduced inhibitions, heightened detachment.
And it can unleash behaviors that really fracture communities and cause serious harm to individuals. There was a 2023 study that found a strong link between anonymity and a significant rise in hostile online behavior.
It's a powerful and, frankly, disturbing dynamic.
Yeah.
And it's a constant challenge for anyone trying to navigate these digital spaces, even just trying to find info or have a civil discussion.
Yeah.
Which brings us perfectly into part two. The ethical imperative for social media platforms. Because it's clear these platforms face a huge ethical imperative when it comes to this hater-creator content. They're algorithms designed for engagement.
Engagement above almost all else, it seems sometimes.
Right. They often inadvertently amplify the outrage. It keeps eyes on the screen, sure, but they are, in a very real sense, handing blowtorches and gasoline to the most destructive voices.
And this amplification has a severe human cost. There was a story I heard recently, it really stuck with me. A high school biology teacher in the UK, let's call her Anya.
Okay.
During a complex genetics lesson, she made an analogy, taken out of context, clipped to just a few seconds. It sounded clumsy, maybe even offensive.
Oh, no.
A student recorded it, posted it. One of these hater creators found it. Within 48 hours, that single clip was her online identity.
Just like that.
Just like that. Branded a monster, her full name, her school's address, distorted details about her personal life blasted everywhere. The creator made dozens of videos, each more inflammatory, each amplified by the algorithm.
What did that do to her?
The digital world became a living nightmare. Constant threatening notifications, seeing her face in hateful memes. She became afraid to go out, constantly looking over her shoulder.
Did she report it?
Yeah, but the platform just sent back automated responses. It took the school board and a police report to finally get the original creator's account suspended. But by then...
damage was done.
Exactly. Thousands of smaller accounts had mirrored the videos. The poison was already in the water supply, so to speak. She loved teaching, but she had to take extended leave, just haunted by the psychological trauma, all from people who'd never met her, over a sentence taken completely out of context.
Anya's story just throws the documented psychological impact into sharp relief, doesn't it? It's not just hurt feelings.
No, it's trauma, anxiety, fear for safety, destruction of reputation, security.
It forces you to ask, can these platforms really claim to be neutral town squares when they're actively rewarding the loudest, most destructive voices?
Which brings us right to the massive challenge of content moderation. How do you strike that delicate balance between censorship and free expression?
It's a tightrope walk.
Definitely. Content moderation aims to filter out genuinely harmful stuff, but the line is incredibly fine. The goal is protecting users without stifling legitimate speech.
And the big danger is over-moderation, right? Where legitimate content gets taken down by mistake.
Yeah, and that directly restricts free speech. Avoiding that requires a really nuanced understanding of context, intent, different forms of expression. It's incredibly complex, especially at the scale these platforms operate.
So how can they navigate this? What's needed?
Well, transparency and accountability are key. Users need to know how moderation works. And crucially, they need clear, accessible ways to appeal decisions if their content gets removed.
Like a real appeals process, not just an automated denial.
Exactly. And platforms need regular audits and evaluations of their AI moderation tools. These algorithms aren't perfect. They need constant checking to identify and fix overreach or new problems that crop up.
And another huge ethical issue, one that often gets overlooked, is bias within the AI algorithms themselves.
Right. These algorithms learn from data, and if that data reflects existing societal biases, racial, gender, ideological, the algorithm will perpetuate them.
So the AI could end up being discriminatory.
Absolutely. If left unaddressed, biased algorithms can reinforce harmful stereotypes and existing inequalities online instead of being neutral arbiters.
So what's the fix for that?
Developers have to be proactive. That means rigorously scrutinizing the training data. Is it diverse? Is it representative? And then continuous monitoring and testing after deployment to catch biases that emerge.
It sounds like you need more than just tech people involved.
Definitely. You need collaboration with diverse stakeholders, ethicists, social scientists, and importantly, the communities most affected by these moderation decisions. Bringing those voices into the development process is crucial for creating more inclusive, less biased algorithms. It's a continuous effort.
So we've talked about the problems with the current approach to moderation, which often feels punitive. Like a digital criminal justice system, remove, silence, expel.
Yeah, and the big problem with punishment alone is that it's often not a great deterrent, and it rarely addresses the needs of the person who is harmed.
Right, deleting a comment doesn't undo the damage.
Exactly. It doesn't encourage the offender to learn or repair the harm, and it doesn't change the underlying conditions that allowed the harm in the first place. Plus, unlike the actual legal system, platforms often lack due process, clear explanations, standard punishments, real appeals. Users feel unheard, unjustly treated.
So what's the alternative? You mentioned restorative justice.
Right. Restorative justice offers a fundamentally different approach. It focuses on repairing harm, not just punishing the offender.
How does that work?
It centers on relationships and communication. The idea is to bring everyone with a stake in a specific offense together, the person harmed, the person who caused harm, maybe community members, to collectively identify and address the harms, the needs, the obligations.
The goal is healing.
Healing and putting things right. Potentially even reintegrating the offender rather than just casting them out. It shifts the focus from what rule was broken to who was harmed and what do they need.
And then there's transformative justice.
That takes it a step further. It aims to transform the actual community conditions and norms to prevent future harm, addressing the root causes.
Are there benefits to these approaches? Do they work?
Well, empirical studies in other settings, schools, workplaces, show that both victims and offenders are generally more satisfied with restorative processes compared to purely punitive ones.
Really?
Yeah. And there are documented reductions in repeat offending and improvements in the overall community climate. It's about building stronger, more resilient communities.
There was that example from Dalhousie University in Canada, right?
Yeah.
With the dentistry students.
Yes, a powerful case. Male dentistry students had a private Facebook group with sexist, misogynistic, homophobic remarks targeting female classmates. This came out in 2014.
What did the university do?
Instead of just expelling students, they chose a restorative justice process. It involved facilitated meetings, workshops.
And the outcome?
The male students eventually issued a collective statement taking personal and shared responsibility for the harm and prejudice within their group. Importantly, the female participants also expressed satisfaction.
Why? Why not just punish them?
They explained that as a small, tight-knit professional community, they didn't want a purely punitive approach like expulsion because they'd still have to interact professionally later. They wanted repair. It shows how these processes can work in smaller, invested communities where repairing relationships matters.
So applying this to online communities, the focus would be on the victim's safety and needs first.
Absolutely. Validating their experience, addressing the harm based on their specific needs. It's probably most effective in smaller online groups where people are invested, where reputations matter, like that Dalhousie example.
But the challenge is scale, right? You can't automate empathy.
That's the huge hurdle. Restorative and transformative justice are resource intensive. They need creative individual responses. They need trained human facilitators with cultural competency to guide these sensitive talks. Bots can't do that.
So platforms would need to invest in people.
Exactly. Investing in training and supporting community moderators in these practices could significantly improve online climate and maybe even decrease recidivism. The infrastructure for chats and groups exists. They just need the trained humans.
Okay, let's shift gears now to part 3. Web sleuths, professional investigations, and the law. This is where the online world crashes right into the serious business of crime solving.
Yeah, and historically, crime solving wasn't always solely a government job.
Right, like the old hue and cry, everyone was legally required to help apprehend criminals.
That really only shifted to being primarily a government thing in the mid to late 1800s with modern police forces.
And once that happened, the U.S. Supreme Court started using the Fourth Amendment to regulate police, right? Unlawful searches and seizures.
Correct. But the key point is, the Fourth Amendment has consistently been held to limit only public law enforcement, not private actors. Unless that private actor is essentially acting as an instrument or agent of law enforcement, acting for the state.
Gotcha. But today, the internet, all this data, it's created entirely new ways for civilians to get involved.
Absolutely. We call them web sleuths, armchair detectives, cyber sleuths, even forensic genetic sleuths now with DNA databases.
It really reflects this shift towards what some are calling online civilian policing.
It does. And police have long encouraged public help, wanted posters, Crime Stoppers, America's Most Wanted.
But crowdsourcing feels different. It feels new.
It is critically important and new. The definition is basically an online, distributed problem-solving and production model that leverages the collective intelligence of online communities to serve specific organizational goals.
Tapping into the internet's brainpower.
Essentially, yeah.
And we've seen huge examples. The Boston Marathon bombing in 2013, the FBI literally posted photos on Reddit asking for help, hoping crowdsourcing will help catch the suspects.
Right. And Newport Beach police creating a podcast, Countdown to Capture, for a cold case.
The Web Sleuth's website is massive. Ordinary people dissecting clues. The FBI asking for help breaking a code in a murder case, admitting someone with a fresh set of eyes might come up with a brilliant new idea.
There are even crowd-solve events where people pay to hear from experts and try to identify suspects in real cases. It's a real phenomenon.
So what's driving all this?
It's a mix. Huge public fascination with true crime. Definitely. That whole do-it-yourself culture, people feel empowered. Frustration with police, especially on cold cases where leads seem dry.
A sense of informational entitlement too, maybe, like public sex offender registries?
That plays a role.
Yeah.
And increasing criticism or distrust of local police leads some to feel citizens need to step up and take more responsibility.
So it's a real double-edged sword, this crowdsourcing. On one hand, clear benefits, right? Tapping into public willingness, expertise, resources. It's an investigative force multiplier.
It can be. And you get that long tail effect. Maybe someone somewhere has that one crucial piece of info. Increases the chances of success.
But the risks, they seem enormous.
They are profound. The number one concern, what keeps law enforcement and legal folks up at night, is misidentification of suspects. False positives.
Like in Boston.
Exactly. Crowdsourcers wrongly ID'd people, including a missing college student who had tragically died by suicide. Imagine the trauma for his family. We saw it after Charlottesville, too.
Why does this happen so easily online?
It's exacerbated by information cascades. Even well-meaning people start relying on what they assume others have reliably figured out. False info just gets repeated and amplified.
And citizen sleuths don't have the full picture police might have.
Precisely. They lack key context, key evidence, making them highly susceptible to jumping to wrong conclusions.
This is why it's so critical for you, the listener, to understand the pitfalls of eyewitness identification in general. It's startling. It's the leading cause of wrongful convictions.
Yeah.
Accounts for, what, 75% of DNA exonerations?
That's a figure. Human memory is incredibly fallible. It's not a video recorder. It can be influenced, altered, and once it's altered, you often can't get the original back.
So things that happen after the crime, during the investigation, can distort memory too.
Absolutely. These are the procedure-based variables things law enforcement can control, and things online crowdsourcing completely bypasses.
Okay, like what?
Let's start with the lineup itself. A huge issue is suggestive lineup composition. The fillers, the non-suspects, have to genuinely resemble the witness's description. The actual suspect cannot stand out.
Like being the only one in a color photo. Or shirtless. Or in a jumpsuit.
We've seen all those examples in DNA exoneration cases. They create immense suggestiveness.
That Antonio Beaver case from St. Louis in '96 you mentioned.
A textbook example. Victim described a robber with a cap and gap teeth. Beaver was put in a lineup where only he and one other wore caps, and he was the only one with gap teeth.
He served 10 years before DNA cleared him.
Wow. It shows how easily flawed procedures single out innocent people. Another variable, cues from the lineup administrator.
Even subconscious ones.
Even subconscious ones. A nod, a leading question, like take another look at number 4, can influence a witness, especially if the administrator believes they have the right guy.
Like the Thomas McAllen case. Detective pressured the witness, "You have to be sure," and her tentative ID became definite.
And he served 23 years before DNA exoneration. It shows how witness confidence, which juries rely on heavily, can be artificially inflated.
Which leads to that other point. Confidence susceptible to suggestion.
Exactly. Witness confidence often has a surprisingly low correlation with accuracy. But things after the ID being told, you did great, learning a co-witness, pick the same person, multiple ID opportunities can artificially boost confidence way after the fact.
Ronald Cotton's case is chilling. Misidentified twice, told, "You did great." He was the only one in both lineups. She became defiantly confident, even after seeing the real perpetrator later.
And he served over 10 years before DNA proved his innocence.
So when web sleuths are crowdsourcing IDs, they're basically stumbling into all these pitfalls, but with none of the professional safeguards.
Pretty much. It's a recipe for disaster for innocent people. And beyond misidentification, crowdsourcing can also jeopardize ongoing investigations.
How?
Information they gather might be tainted chain of evidence problems, making it useless in court. Or, even if it's accurate, publicly disclosing it can contaminate the investigation, reveal details too soon, influence other potential witnesses.
And they're bigger picture issues too, right? Like democratic governance implications.
Yeah, this convergence of public and private crime control blurs lines. Citizens become both agents and objects of surveillance. It leads to responsibilization, managing the public by having it manage itself.
Which sounds empowering, but maybe isn't always.
It can subtly shift government responsibility onto the public, blurring accountability. If everyone's responsible, sometimes no one is truly accountable. Think of China's human flesh search engine. Outing unethical but legal behavior, the public becomes the enforcer.
There's also the lack of transparency issue.
Big time. Police use new tech, often without public knowledge or clear limits. And the private tech companies providing it resist disclosure, citing trade secrets. This secrecy undermines the transparency needed to regulate police effectively in a democracy.
And finally, the risk of displacement of responsibility and vigilantism.
Right. This shift can undercut government accountability for public safety and, crucially, foster vigilantism. Public law enforcement isn't perfect, we know that, but organized, trained, democratically accountable officers are generally preferable to privatized justice or mob rule.
I heard about a case in the U.S. that just perfectly captures this danger zone between web sleuthing and real investigation.
Really?
A young woman went missing. An online forum, obsessed over the case, quickly decided her ex-boyfriend was guilty. They were passionate, convinced, fueled by their own theories.
Analyzing social media, tracking his car from photos.
Exactly. Piecing together this timeline that seemed damning. One user, let's call her Sarah, from a totally different state, became a leader, spent nights making graphics, presenting theories as fact to thousands.
Based on speculation and confirmation bias.
Totally. They bombarded local police, interfering with the official investigation. They doxed the ex-boyfriend, published his address, personal details. He got harassed, lost his job.
But they were wrong.
Completely wrong. Weeks later, the actual police, doing quiet, methodical work, forensic evidence, due process, arrested someone else entirely, a stranger who confessed.
What happened to the online group?
Their narrative just collapsed. No apologies. The forum just quietly moved on to the next case, leaving the wreckage of this innocent guy's life behind.
That story is just a crucial lesson in humility and the rule of law, isn't it?
Absolutely. Our legal system has innocent until proven guilty, due process, for a reason, to protect against exactly this kind of mob justice.
Professionals are bound by ethics, legal standards on evidence, privacy. Web sleuths are not. Fueled by the thrill, the online validation, they cause irreparable harm.
Their actions, even if they start from a desire for justice, can become serious obstructions, dangerous distractions, violating privacy and legal rights.
Which brings us to the really critical distinctions between amateur web sleuths and professional experts.
Okay, lay them out.
First, training and expertise. Professionals, detectives, forensic scientists, criminologists have years of rigorous training, strict ethical boundaries, evidence-based methods. Web sleuths, even if driven by empathy, lack that foundation. Leads to ethical missteps, inaccurate conclusions.
And ethical boundaries are key. Professionals have codes, protect sensitive info, avoid baseless accusations. They know the real-world stakes. Web sleuths, driven by passion, might cross lines without understanding the legal or personal damage.
Then there's accuracy and objectivity. Professionals rely on verified evidence. Objectivity is paramount. Avoid speculation, especially in court. Web sleuths, often heavily influenced by emotion, confirmation bias, the desire to solve it, leads to misinformation spreading like wildfire.
And finally, impartiality and ego. Trained pros are expected to stay objective, revise opinions if new evidence comes in, even if it contradicts their first theory. Web sleuths, especially those caught up in hater-creator dynamics or strong narratives,
can engage in witch hunts, become fixated on proving their initial idea, even against contradictory evidence. You see the Dunning-Kruger effect, sometimes overestimating their own abilities, thinking their amateur theories are better than professional findings.
So given all these huge challenges, what's the way forward? How do you regulate crowdsourcing to keep the benefits but ditch the risks? The Fourth Amendment's private search doctrine seems ill-equipped.
It really is. It's potentially over-inclusive, could classify most crowdsourcing as public state action, which might kill its benefits entirely.
So what are the current legal tests from cases like Coolidge and Skinner?
They look at the degree of government participation, any coercion involved, and the private party's intent were they trying to help law enforcement. Lower courts use similar multi-factor tests.
But applying those to messy, decentralized online crowdsourcing must be tough.
Extremely. Police often encourage, endorse, and participate, which blurs the lines. Is it public action then? And the motivation of crowdsourcers' internet fame? Genuinely helping, often hard to disentangle.
So what are the proposed solutions? How do we bring some order here?
One idea is a more robust private search doctrine focusing on the degree of control police exercise. If police actively shape, direct, and control specific tasks citizens do, then it should be deemed public, subject to Fourth Amendment rules.
That makes sense.
This could also mean applying the exclusionary rule if citizens are deemed agents, illegally gathered evidence gets tossed. Police would be incentivized not to overstep or encourage bad behavior. Another option is administrative rulemaking, setting clear limits on what police can ask crowdsourcers to do, like we have for CCTV or facial recognition. We need clear rules.
And looping back to misidentification, what about systemic reforms to eyewitness ID procedures themselves? You said these have strong scientific backing.
Absolutely. Critical reforms endorsed by the National Institute of Justice, the American Bar Association. These can make a real difference.
What are the key ones? The procedure-based improvements.
Okay, first, lineup composition. Only one suspect per lineup. At least 5 fillers in photo arrays, 4 in live lineups. Fillers must resemble the witness's description. Suspect can't stand out. If multiple witnesses vary the suspect's position, keep witnesses separate.
Makes sense. Don't make it a multiple-choice test where one answer is obvious. Second,
blind administration. The officer conducting the lineup should not know who the suspect is. Prevents any conscious or subconscious cues. Smaller departments can use the folder system, so even an involved officer is blinded during the viewing.
then witness instructions. Seems crucial.
Critically important. Tell the witness the perpetrator may or may not be present, and that the investigation continues regardless. Reduces pressure, discourages relative judgment, just picking who looks most like the memory among the options.
And right after an ID, confidence statements.
Yes. Immediately get the witness to state their confidence level in their own words. Prevents later inflation due to feedback or other info. Juries trust confidence, but it's only reliable if recorded immediately.
And for transparency, electronic recording.
Ideally, videotape the entire procedure, start to finish. Preserves accuracy, helps training, boosts public confidence. If video is not possible, detailed audio or written records are essential.
Finally, sequential presentation. Optional, but interesting.
Yeah, showing lineup members one at a time, not all at once, encourages comparing each face to memory, not just comparing faces to each other. It can reduce misidentifications, though maybe also slightly reduce correct IDs. Jurisdictions are still evaluating this one alongside the core reforms.
And these reforms aren't just theoretical, right? States and cities are actually doing this.
Yes. New Jersey was first in 2001. Wisconsin followed in 2005. North Carolina passed comprehensive laws in 2008 mandating blind sequential training, even legal remedies for noncompliance. Cities like Minneapolis, Dallas have adopted them voluntarily.
Showing it's feasible and has benefits.
Definitely. Increased confidence in the IDs obtained, stronger court cases. It's about building a system focused on actual justice, not just closing cases.
Wow. We've really covered a lot of ground here, a deep dive into this complex, fascinating, sometimes really unsettling world where online passion meets the pursuit of justice. We've looked at the powerful psychological forces turning amateurs into hater creators, the huge responsibility social media platforms have in shaping discourse.
A responsibility they're still grappling with, clearly.
Absolutely. And we've examined those critical boundaries between citizen enthusiasm and the rigorous ethical work of professional law enforcement.
And these aren't just passing trends, are they? The rise of crowdsourcing, the power of online platforms, the known fallibility of human perception. These issues are only going to become more important.
So the challenge for all of us, really, is making sure that the wisdom of the crowd doesn't just become the tyranny of the crowd.
Exactly. And ensuring that our collective pursuit of truth doesn't inadvertently lead to more injustice or harm. It's a fundamental task for society now. How do we harness the potential of these digital tools while rigorously guarding against their very significant dangers?